This is northeastern Pennsylvania, right over the border from New York's southern tier. It is home to rolling hills, farmland, and for the past 5 years, well pads, like this one, for hydrofracking.
Hydrofracking. The word is being thrown around more and more recently, and with that seems to come more controversy. Governor Andrew Cuomo has yet to decide whether or not to permit it in New York, so I came here to northern Pennsylvania, where hydrofracking is legal, and got a peek of what New York's future could look like.
I had a friend in Dimmock, Susan, who showed me around. She said that looks like there's drill rigs here now, which was a shock. And we had no warning. Like New York has all kinds of warning. We had none.
The addition of hydrofracking has changed more than just the landscape. Supporters say it has brought money to the area.
Our young people who want to stay and raise their families here where they grew up are now able to by making a decent wage through the industry that's come in.
But opponents say it has only brought problems.
If we're all supposed to benefit by it, then there shouldn't be a bunch of people left behind as a disaster in the wake of it.
It has pitted people against each other in either extreme support for the natural gas industry or vehement opposition.
You got neighbor against neighbor, town against town, it's a war zone. Everybody's fed up with it.
Hydraulic fracturing, or hydrofracking, is a process used in extracting natural gas from rock deep underground. It uses pressurized streams of water and chemicals to crack impermeable rock and release methane gas. It is only one part of the drilling process, but has become the most controversial.
It's the part that everybody's all up in arms about, but it's been going on for a number of years. It's not a new process at all.
Hydrofracking has been going on in the United States since the 1960s. Pennsylvania and New York sit on the Marcellus Shale, which is a natural gas reserve that extends through 6 states. Hydrofracking became increasingly popular in Pennsylvania within the last 5 years, but New York placed a moratorium on the practice in 2010 that is yet to be lifted.
God gave us a stimulus package, and it's right under our feet. All we have to do is drill for it.
Shelley Depew's family owns a cattle farm outside Montrose in northeast Pennsylvania.
This is our family farm. It's been in the family for generations. There's been somebody milking cows here for 122 years. So we don't take the use of our land lightly. If anyone cares for the land, it's the farmer who makes their life off the land.
The family leased their land to a gas company in 2007, and a few years later, the drilling began. When a gas company makes a lease, it pays a certain amount per acre and then gives the landowner a percentage for the extracted gas. The Depews get 12.5% of profits in royalty payments.
As far as royalty checks, they come very, when they're supposed to, and it's incredible.
Depew would not say how much exactly they usually receive. She did say they have more money now than ever before. But Depew says the economic benefits of hydrofracking extend far beyond the landowners.
Truck drivers are employed. The restaurants are full. The waitresses, they get a good tip because there's money in the area now.
But hydrofracking opponents say the gas industry does not deliver on its own promise to bring in jobs for locals.
It's only about 10% of our local people are involved, and most of the jobs are not something that you can really rave about. The people are working very long hours, anywhere from 60 and more a week, and 12-hour plus days, hardly any time off.
The 2 men I spoke with at a hydrofracking site who would not go on camera were from Texas. The workers live at the site and run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Do you want a surgeon operating on you who's never had any experience before, or do you want him well trained? The people bring workers in from other areas of our country to train the ones that are here.
But some opponents say they don't buy that these people are experts.
They tell us they're experts, they know what they're doing, they've been doing it for 70 years, 100 years, whatever. No, they're not. It's all, everywhere they go, it's all new. There's new geology, there's new problems, there's new altitudes, there's cold weather, hot weather, whatever.
Depew's son does work for the gas industry, and she says he's had a good experience.
Started looking for another job within the gas industry and was able to find one and worked his way up through. And he's just one success story.
Anti-fracking activist Ray Kemble also worked for the gas industry at one time, but he says he had an ulterior motive.
They weren't tell me what I wanted to hear down here. So I figured I'd go get a job, drive one of the trucks, and then get on the wells and find out what's really going on.
Kimball says as a truck driver, he witnessed some inappropriate water practices. He says the companies would use the same trucks for the fresh water going into the wells and also the contaminated brine water coming out. But Kimball says that wasn't all.
They were taking some of the flow back in the brine, we were putting it in our freshwater trucks and putting sprayers on them, and we were spraying the dirt roads and stuff and different roads for dust control.
When asked if this is safe, Kimball laughed.
It's not. Not at all.
But Depew says she trusts the gas industry with her land. She explored some of the environmental concerns while starring in the documentary Truthland. It was the gas industry's response to the anti-hydrofracking movie Gasland.
During Truthland, I traveled around and spoke to many, many scientists, and like I said, was able to glean from their knowledge and how it affects things in the big picture, how natural gas has lessened the carbon footprint.
Natural gas drilling supporters say it is the cleanest fossil fuel. And Depew says their drill site has not had any problems.
And people say, well, what happens if yours has a problem? And we said right from the start, we don't anticipate any problems, but if there is, we totally believe that the company would address it and make it right.
But gas sites 15 miles down the road have had problems, expensive problems that have cost the gas company Cabot more than $4 million in settlement payments to families whose water the Department of Environmental Protection says was contaminated from Cabot gas sites in the town of Dimmock.
The whole process is bad. The casings and the concrete fail right from the get-go in the drilling process. So you already got failed casings. Then we'll come in and frack them, which makes those failures bigger than what they were already. They know they failed, and they still will put that well online. When all the produced water and stuff is coming back up, it's leaking out through the failures, okay? And that's how the groundwater is getting contaminated because the casings have failed.
Kimball's well was one of 33 that the DEP found to be contaminated in Dimmock.
When DEP came in back here and did the water testing, I mean, they came up with arsenic and barium and strontium and silica, 4 grades of uranium, 3 grades of thorium, and I mean, the list goes on. DEP came up with this list, not us.
Land rights advocate Craig Stevens says this jug contains water from Kimball's well once it went bad.
It's not the color. The color, the discoloration, you're lucky if your water turns a color because then you can tell there's something wrong. What's worse is when it stays clear. When it stays clear and it has problems in it like ethylene glycol, that would be antifreeze. They use that in the drilling process.
19 families along this road sued Cabot for their contaminated water and collectively received $4.1 million. Some of the families now get their house water from these large plastic containers called water buffaloes. Kimball and Stevens stepped in and bought this $6,000 water truck to transport clean water from a spigot at a nearby lake.
We're all chipping in, for the gasoline, pay the water bill, because we got a water bill up there that I pay now, where we never had a water bill. In the wintertime, you got these heaters running and everything else down here. That jumps your electric bill another $150 to $200 a month.
Kimball says the main problem with the water is an increase in methane gas levels.
If they're fracking that well, and that was actually in my water aquifer right here, okay, and they were fracking, it would literally blow my well out of the ground.
It's like one way to water your lawn,
The Manning family had a similar experience in their home near Montrose in December 2011.
I flushed the toilet and our water was gray. We didn't know what was going on at the time. It was a few days later that we realized that the water in our well was actually erupting. Right after it would do that, that's when the water would discolor.
It took 3 months for the family to get a water buffalo sponsored by the gas company. In the meantime, Manning says DEP told them not to drink the water. She says an air testing company, Resource Environmental, came in and verbally recommended that they leave the bathroom window open when taking a shower, and also avoid using the stove because the methane levels in the house could cause an explosion. Resource Environmental refused to give information about the case, and the DEP did not return phone calls.
We left the faucet running so that the pressure wouldn't build up in the well because we were afraid the well was going to explode. And it's really close to the house, And I guess in doing that, we were letting methane come into our home.
From December to March, Manning says her 5-year-old granddaughter was getting sick a couple times a week when she woke up.
We just thought it was that she was waking up hungry, so we were leaving crackers next to her bed and telling her, you know, just eat something before you get up. After we got the water buffalo, she stopped throwing up. I had heard a doctor speaking at a meeting that I had gone to down in Montrose, and he was saying that methane exposure causes nausea, and I thought, oh my goodness, you know, we were probably poisoning her by having the faucet going.
The family still has the water buffalo and receives water every day, which the gas company pays for. Manning says if they wanted to move to escape the problems, they can't.
If you don't have water, you can't really sell your house.
The DEP sent the Manning family a letter dated April 24, 2013, more than a year after this investigation began. The letter says nearby gas wells were not the cause of the water contamination. A DEP press release cites Salt Springs Park down the road as the source of the high methane levels. However, the letter to the Mannings does not mention Salt Springs Park and says they did not find a natural cause for the high methane levels that made the water surge out of the well. Manning says she wants to see the studies that have been done to reach the conclusion, but she says the DEP will not release them to her. She says they are being left with more questions than answers. It is questions like these that have prompted New York's Department of Environmental Conservation to conduct ongoing studies of hydrofracking's effects on public health before the state considers lifting the moratorium.
I would say New York should let it come there the day that they find out that every problem has been resolved, fixed, or rectified in the state of Pennsylvania. That's number one.
For anti-hydrofracking activists, health studies in the moratorium in New York are a good sign. But those who are profiting from hydrofracking in Pennsylvania say the moratorium isn't fair to New Yorkers.
The farmers up there are no different than the farmers down here. They struggle to make a living, yet they're not allowed to use their property to benefit themselves so they can continue to milk cows.
I just tell New Yorkers to keep holding, keep putting pressure, and people can do it.